Hello, and welcome to episode 49 of the SU Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Manning, and today I'm going to be talking to you about speaking up and the invisible work involved in being able to speak up. The reason that I'm doing this episode is because this week I heard from a quite inspiring female leader about her career and how she'd managed it and the things she'd done that helped her to kind of get where she is and to do really well. And one of the things that she was saying was just, use your voice. Your voice is your power. Dare to speak. Just do it. And I was like, that's great. And that is not easy for everyone. In fact, that's not easy for a lot of people. So it's great to hear this, like, yay, use your voice is your power, and all of that. But what happens if you're listening to that and thinking, well, that's all right for you to say, but actually, that's a really hard thing for me to do. And the reason why I wanted to just do this is going to be a quick episode today, is to kind of draw awareness to that fact that we hear this stuff, but it's like you hear that and it's surface level stuff. And for someone who just finds it easy to do that, or who has done that, they probably haven't realized the invisible stuff that's going on behind that enables them to do that. So they haven't realized the invisible stuff that's going on behind them speaking up, which has enabled them to do that. And that's the stuff that I want to talk to you about today, because if you find it difficult to speak up at the moment and you'd like to get better at it, you'd like to do it more, there's some stuff that you probably are going to have to tend to, are going to have to think about. And I've thought about that stuff for you because I've coached people on this many times. And it is something that I'm never going to say to somebody, just do it. Your voice is your power, right? I understand it's a little bit more tricky than that. But I also understand that there's things that you can do and there's stuff you can think about that will make it a bit easier and will help you to use your voice and to speak up more if that's what you want to do. So the kind of it might, and I'm calling this invisible work because this work might be invisible to you. You might think, well, I don't even know what I have to do to speak up more. And having coached people on it many times, I know the work that people have to do in order to feel more safe speaking up and to feel more safe using their voice. And I'm going to take you through the things that I know that people usually have to look at and have to deal with so that you can maybe do some of that too. So the first thing is, you have to, let's say you're going to a meeting and it's a meeting where you want to speak up. You might want to contribute if something comes to your mind. But you may have voice in your brain which has got thoughts about that meeting. So before you even get there may be stuff going on in your mind about how high stakes this meeting is, the kind of people that are going to be there, the Billy Big Bollocks, the people who make you feel uncomfortable, whatever. The fact that there's going to be a lot of people there, maybe the fact that you don't know a lot of those people and you don't feel that comfortable with them. That is something that you may have to, or you're probably going to have to contend with on the way to that meeting. And that is one of the things that can make it difficult from the word go. Now, I'm not saying that maybe you can prevent this stuff coming into your mind, but what I am saying is, when you are on your way to something where you might have to make a contribution and maybe you're going to feel less than completely comfortable about that, just watch carefully for the stories that are going on in your mind before you even get there. Because they will make a difference to how you feel when you are there. And if you let those stories kind of run riot in the beginning, it's going to be a lot harder for you to speak up. It's going to be more scary for you to speak up because you just amped up the pressure. If you're saying, I don't know any of these people, and to your head, that's like, and that's a very dangerous situation, it's going to be more difficult for you to just use your voice and speak up. So watch out for the stories that you're telling yourself before you go into those meetings. Are they helping or are they making it harder? The next thing is you might have to deal with a voice in your brain in the very moment that you have something you want to say. Now, for somebody who could just say, just use your voice, it's fine. Maybe they just open their mouth and say the thing without a thought in their head that sounds something like, if you say this, you're going to sound stupid. You should probably stay quiet. This is a ridiculous point to make, right? If you have all that going on in your mind, after you've thought of something that you want to say or something that you want to contribute, of course, it's going to be more difficult for you to open your mouth and just speak. Just use your voice. Okay, but that's tricky when I actually have a heckler in my brain saying to me, you're going to sound stupid. Imagine if somebody actually said that to you before you spoke. You'd be a lot more circumspect about whether or not you actually spoke, right? The next thing to think about is imagine you're in that meeting and with all this stuff going through your head, you're actually starting to feel a bit scared, a bit nervous. You might be experiencing that stress response, that fight or flight response during that meeting. You may experience it the whole way through. You may only be experiencing it when there's something you actually want to say, or when you're like opening your mouth, or before you go to speak. But that is a very real thing that might be happening to you, which again makes it harder for you to just open your mouth and just use your voice. That stress response, once it's activated, will have you kind of focus on it. So you might notice that your heart's beating, maybe you feel like you're going red, maybe your hands are sweating, maybe your voice is shaking. At that point, your brain doesn't really want you to draw attention to yourself, right? And you might have lots of ideas or thoughts in your mind that are like, oh God, I don't want people to see that I'm not absolutely confident. I don't want people to hear me if my voice is shaking. I don't want people to look at me if I'm red. All of those things might be happening to you. That stress response might have been activated. Your nervous system is activated. Now, you could say to somebody in that activated state, well, just speak up, just use your voice. But actually, you're asking somebody who is already struggling to just speak up and just use their voice. Like, that's a tricky thing to do. I'm not saying you can't do it, you can. But it is going to make it more difficult to just open your mouth. Now, you may decide that if this is like something you want to die in a ditch about and you feel so strongly about this issue that you can do it while you're red and your voice is shaking because really like something just has to be said. But if it's not that urgent or not that important, you're more likely to just think, oh, never mind. What's the point? Oh, it's fine. Someone else will probably say it. Oh, there's no point in telling them that they're wrong. Right? So if you feel that stress response happening, it's going to make you less likely to just open your mouth and just use your voice. The next thing that I see people experiencing all the time is that they may beat themselves up after they've spoken up and after they've made a contribution. So They may go over it in their mind. What did I say that for? Oh my God, that was so stupid. What a stupid comment. Everyone thought that was ridiculous. As if I said that, what will people think? If this stuff is familiar to you, if you kind of do like a load of analysis and rumination after you've spoken up and used your voice, it is going to make you a lot less likely to speak up and use your voice in the future. Because why would you, frankly, when someone's criticizing you for the attempt that you actually did make? You actually opened your mouth and you used your voice. Now you're getting punished for it. Even if it's only inside your own mind, it makes it less likely that you're going to do it next time. And it makes it more likely that that stress response that we just talked about is going to be more activated next time, thus making it harder for you to speak up and use your voice. There is also the very real, I need to think about how to say this. There is also the very real fact that some people in our workplaces are listened to more readily than others. Some people are taken more seriously than others. Some people are deferred to more easily than others. Some people are spoken over. Some people's contribution might be diminished. Some people will find that they say something and it doesn't really land. And then 2 minutes later, somebody else says it and they're like, oh, Jeff, great point. All of that is real. All of that happens. And all of that also might make you less likely and might make it more difficult for you to just speak up and just use your voice. There's also the issue of challenging someone. So, what if the thing that you're going to say is a direct challenge to something that somebody said? Or if you need to say, actually, that's not right. Or if somebody said something that's wrong and you think, actually, I should probably correct that because I know that and it's wrong. Well, that's not an easy thing to do. When we think about human development, human evolution, we're designed as communal creatures. And sticking your neck out and saying, no, I think you're wrong, is potentially going to kind of create waves in our community, whether that's just a meeting full of people or in society. And some of us may directly have the experience that when we speak out and speak up about something where we're challenging something or we think something is wrong, that is not always met with delight. Some people are marginalized, are shut down, are treated disrespectfully. When you think of when you think about what happens to whistleblowers in our National Health Service, they're hounded out of jobs. Like, this is real stuff. It is not easy for us to challenge or tell someone they're wrong, but yet sometimes our contribution in that meeting is going to be just that. So just speak up and just use your voice in that situation. Bit difficult. Your brain is really going all out to try and keep you safe from exposing yourself to potential risks. And there may be risks associated with you challenging and speaking up. Now, there may not. There may not. It may be a safe environment and it's okay. But even if it is a safe environment and it's okay, your brain's designed to warn you that potentially challenging someone is a bit of a difficult thing to do. Now, I even always find that I don't find that easy. I find that my hands do sweat. I do it, but I don't find it easy. And I don't think most people do, to be honest. So they're just some of the things that can make speaking up and just using your voice difficult and tricky. But what I know to be true is that You will build your capacity to use your voice when you use your voice. It is a bit of a vicious circle, or it can be a bit of a vicious circle, not speaking, not making your contribution, then beating yourself up afterwards for not doing it. And then you're even more stressed the next time, so you're less likely to do it again. It can be a bit of a vicious circle. So, some of the things that I recommend, if you're struggling to speak up and use your voice and you want to, is don't aim to get it right. Don't aim to articulate yourself perfectly so that everyone understands you and you make a very good point and that lands perfectly, right? Try and just knock the standards down a little bit. Because aiming to kind of get everything perfect and articulate yourself really well, that's going to shut you up. That's going to shut you down. Instead, aim to just speak. Aim to just say some words, even if no one has a fucking clue what you're talking about. Aim to just say some words if you want to practice building your capacity to speak when you have a contribution. Let it be messy and imperfect and let your voice be shaking and also do it while you're fearful. But then what you must do, for the love of God, is not beat yourself over the head after your messy, imperfect attempt. You're not aiming to get this perfect. This is building your capacity to use your voice and to speak up when you want. And the only way that I see people do that successfully is if they cut themselves a bit of slack, number one, and don't expect their contribution to be perfect, but just try and say the thing that they're trying to say. But then in the aftermath, they do not hang themselves out to dry for it not being perfect. They do not beat themselves over the head and say, oh, you're such an idiot. Why did you say it like that? Nobody understood what you were saying. Oh, for God's sake, right? When you are like judging and shaming your contributions and your attempts, you will not be able to build your capacity to speak up and to use your voice. It will be much, 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 much harder for you to dare when you know that you have a really unsafe environment. Even if it's not on the outside, even if everyone else is not going to say anything, if you're going to beat yourself up and judge yourself and shame yourself for your contribution, you're going to make it so much harder for you to get some words out next time. The other thing that I think can be helpful to you is be in community on this issue. So most of the time when we fear speaking up and we fear making a contribution, we fear looking stupid and all of that, we'll probably tend to keep that to ourselves. But I think that makes it worse. It creates more fear, it creates more pressure, it creates more shame. So if you can say to anyone, maybe someone you trust, I sometimes find it difficult to get my contribution out in those meetings. I find my brain's like telling me that I'm going to sound stupid or something. Okay, that's a brave thing to admit. And like admitting what's actually going on and noticing what's actually going on without judging yourself and without beating yourself down will also help you to build your capacity to use your voice and to just speak up. And if you practice all this stuff again and again and again, it will get easier. But that stuff that I've just talked about is invisible to most people. It's invisible. They don't know the work that you have to do in order to just speak up. They don't know the things that are getting in your way and the struggles that you're having and the challenges that are very real. So don't feel bad if you hear someone saying, just speak up, use your voice. And you're like, well, great, but I currently I can't do that. Give yourself a break. It is hard. It is hard. And I know loads of people will listen to this episode and identify with it, so you're not the only one. I find it hard sometimes to speak up and say the stuff I want to say. Now it's gotten easier and easier and easier because I've done some of this stuff that I've talked to you about today. And I also have seen it get easier and easier and easier for clients, to the point that they don't even have to, there isn't that voice in their brain telling them that they're stupid anymore. So they're able to just say the thing, and then they don't beat themselves up afterwards. And that is, instead of that being a downward spiral, it's like an upward spiral. And that's the upward spiral you have to be in order to build your capacity, in order to just use your voice. You have to be in that upward spiral, and that can be invisible to people. So I hope this has been helpful. And if you have questions or comments or stuff that you want to ask me, I will leave an email in the show notes. Feel free to get in touch. I love hearing from people who are listening to the podcast. And last thing, I'm also going to leave a link to a free community class that's happening on the 29th of June, 2023. It's called Grow Your Professional Confidence, and it will help you with speaking up, amongst other things. It will help you with all aspects of your professional confidence. I take you through everything I've learned coaching hundreds of people to grow their confidence, the stuff that you definitely need to do and the stuff that you definitely need to stop doing if you're going to grow your professional confidence. And you're going to create your own personalized plan and then take that away. So you can either come to the class live, or if it's not convenient for you, once you sign up, you'll get a replay. And if you're listening to this after the 29th of June, 2023, click on that link anyway, and it'll take you to my link tree so you can see what's going on in the community right now. All right. Speak to you next week. Bye.